Welcome to the WordPress.com managed hosting webinar. You folks are in for a treat today. We're going to be talking about what managed hosting is, why it's important for your website, and why WordPress.com is such a great place to host your site. For the Q&A part of this session, we're going to have a presentation for you, and during the presentation and after the presentation, we'll have question and answers. So to be able to access the question and answers, if you look at the slide right now, you'll notice that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window. Go ahead and click on that, and that's where you can ask your questions. We will try to get to as many of your questions as possible, but we might not be able to get to everything. So if you do have additional questions, we don't get to your question, please email us at help@wordpress.com. We'll be more than happy to help you out there. And so I'm going to introduce somebody who we're very fortunate to have today. Rudy is a systems wrangler at Automatic Systems, and he handles everything at WordPress.com in terms of like fixing servers and all that stuff. So he's the perfect person to have here to talk to us about what managed hosting is. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rudy.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the WordPress.com managed hosting webinar. In this session, I'm going to talk a lot about what managed hosting is and what it can do for you. At the end of the session, with the help from our moderators and my wonderful colleagues, Sam, Win, and Carla, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. If you're already using WordPress.com, we would be happy to follow up with you directly regarding any specific questions you have about your site. So let's get started. You might be a content creator, an artist, entrepreneur, casual blogger, or even a business owner. You have an idea that gives you energy and you want to share it with the world. You need a website to make sure like-minded people and the rest of the world knows about this project and you can connect with them. But you're not setting out to build a website. You're setting out to express your work with the world, grow your audience, organize an experience, maybe even make money. But you might be thinking, how do I make a website? What are my options? I want to focus on the content. I don't want to worry about programming, networking, servers, but I also don't want my website to look like it came out of a mold. This is where a content management system is a great choice. A content management system is software that lets you focus on the content without requiring specialized technical knowledge. WordPress is free software that does just that. It's been around for 18 years, and it is the most popular content management system in the world, powering 41% of all websites. WordPress is a CMS that puts your content first. It's fast, powerful, and extensible. The layout and presentation of your site is controlled by something called themes. There are thousands of themes, and you can change them on the fly without any coding or worrying about losing your content, so your website stays fresh and timeless. Sounds great, right? What are your options? Well, when you set out on this journey, there are both costs and a learning curve associated with doing it all yourself. You can download the WordPress software for free, but now you have to find something called a web host or hosting provider to host the content. You have to install the software on the server, register a domain, and connect it to the site. What about keeping the software up to date? You're on the hook for that too. There are so many options: bandwidth, storage, SEO, CDN. The terms and acronyms are confusing. How can I compare what host A is offering compared to host B when they don't even use the same words? How can I be sure I'm choosing the right thing for my idea or my business? Here's what actually matters. There are a few core fundamentals of any website that actually matter, regardless of how they're presented by a host: speed, reliability, security, and support. Let's talk a little bit about why. Let's say you have a first-time visitor to your site. In a study Microsoft conducted, just a 2-second longer delay in page responsiveness reduced user satisfaction by 4%, increased lost revenue per user by 5%, and reduced clicks by 6%. Speed matters. Millisecond delays can impact business metrics. In lay terms, we live in a world of now, feed, instant content, and a slow site will result in lost visitors. If you're a business owner, that translates to lost revenue, period. For a site to be considered fast, it needs to load for the user between 2 and 4 seconds. More than a site being fast, it needs to be online. A website is next to useless if it isn't reachable. How many times have you Googled for a business or service in need of some sort, only to click a result that leads to a broken or unresponsive page? Yeah, next. Your host should be rock solid in the fundamentals. Never mind the extra bells and whistles. Your site should be available worldwide so that, regardless of location, visitors to your site get a fast and consistent experience. Your media, videos, and images should be optimized for whatever quality and resolution your visitors want to view them at on demand. Hackers and other bad actors are constantly looking for ways to exploit websites, whether they're hoping to take a site offline or exploit the site owner for money. You should feel confident that your host is going to take every reasonable precaution to protect your data. This starts with keeping your site's underlying system automatically up to date and responding quickly to vulnerabilities or known exploits. Last but certainly not least, support. Even if a host has everything I mentioned previously and more, you still have to manage those aspects. Your site's updates, security, and general administration on an ongoing basis. Look at it this way. If you're a brick and mortar business, your host is essentially the company that leased you the commercial real estate. Sure, they'll help you if there's a power outage, but they're going to have no idea what to do if the equipment in your space starts to fail. Wouldn't it be nice if they could just take care of everything and let you focus on your idea? This is where managed hosting comes in. A good managed host assumes responsibility for your site's performance, uptime, security, and provides 24/7 support to answer any questions or concerns you might have, letting you focus on what matters most, your content. Some managed hosts might be dependent on cloud infrastructure, and one bug or bad configuration from a third party can lead to an outage, similar to what we saw with a mainstream CDN provider just a week ago. Companies like Reddit, Amazon, Pinterest, Twitch, news sites, and more went down around the world by no fault of their own, but the result was the same. The sites were inaccessible to hundreds of thousands of users. Some managed hosts might look like a good deal up front, but once you start paying, you're going to find that you have to pay more and more every time you want to unlock what should be a standard feature. If your site does well and starts gaining traffic, guess what? More money. What if you decide you want to try a different host or software? Some managed hosts don't even provide the option for you to download or export your data. So, what's a managed hosting provider that has all of this and more? WordPress.com. At many other hosting providers, WordPress is one of the many things available for installation. This means that the host needs to support all of these different applications and platforms they offer. WordPress.com is a fully managed version of WordPress, meaning it comes pre-configured on every site, and we manage all of the infrastructure for you. No terminal windows, no cPanel, no batteries required. WordPress.com is built from the ground up for one thing, WordPress. On WordPress.com, we handle the patches, spam protection, updates, security, and more right out of the box. We don't lease our equipment. Every server down to the CPU and RAM is custom ordered and purpose-built for hosting WordPress sites and serving them to visitors as quickly as possible. We own our own infrastructure placed in 28 state-of-the-art data centers around the world. These data centers form a global content delivery network, which ensures that wherever your visitors are around the world, there's a data center nearby serving the latest content on your site for them. So why does this all matter? If you ever create a post or product that goes viral and hundreds of thousands of visitors flock to your site, you don't want it to be so slow or inaccessible that you lose interest in what could be your idea's pivotal moment. Remember how I mentioned for a site to be considered fast, it needs to load in 2 to 4 seconds? A WordPress.com baseline site on a business plan with custom built-in plugins and a default theme activated loads in around 1 second, in many cases even faster. This image is a screenshot of a test I ran on a WordPress.com business site last Saturday using the GT Metrics site performance software. If we look at this first metric, TTFB, or time to first byte, it's a measurement of the time it takes for your computer to start getting information back from the server it makes a request to. In this case, the browser received a response in less than 500 milliseconds. Then the page was loaded and interactive in under 3/4 of a second. Even companies that review WordPress hosting sites are consistently impressed. Just last month in May of 2021, Review Signal conducted performance tests on 32 different hosting providers, and WordPress.com earned top-tier status yet again this year, blowing the competition out of the water with, quote, perfect 100% uptime on both monitors, 0 errors across both load tests, and the fastest WP bench of any company in any price tier this year, and overall flawless performance. This first-class performance is just the beginning. As I mentioned, WordPress controls a site's look and feel through something called a theme. All of the considerations a professional web designer takes into account, like above-the-fold content, image placement, spacing, color scheme, and font, are carefully selected down to each pixel so you can focus on your content. Right out of the box, WordPress.com has dozens of modern, professionally designed themes available, and you can try out your content or change it with a single click. Changing your site's theme or fully changes the look and feel of your website without you having to try and rewrite any of your content. Dozens of these themes are completely free, and all of the features are fully available on a WordPress.com free site. If you decide to move to a paid plan, there are hundreds more, and if you're on a WordPress.com business plan, there are thousands of themes, both available through the WordPress.org theme repository and thousands of other independent developers. Many of WordPress.com's built-in features make commonly tedious tasks a breeze. With the Publicize feature, for example, all of your site's posts will automatically share to your Facebook page, Twitter feed, LinkedIn, and more. This is a great way to get your content in front of visitors or potential customers wherever they are, linking them right back to your website. If you decide that you want to try out more than the built-in plugins, you can easily add more with a WordPress.com business plan. Plugins are a great way to extend your site's core functionality or add integrations with a single click. Whether you want to turn your website into a fully fledged e-commerce site or design your site with drag and drop elements, plugins are there to help make it happen. I think we have an optional poll for how many websites are hacked each day. Before we go to this next slide, mods, can you help me out with the poll? Ask our participants how many sites are hacked each day. Got a poll going. Okay. Maybe poll, no poll. All right. So the correct answer is 30,000 sites are hacked each day. The security of both your site and your personal data is always a priority. We encrypt all WordPress.com sites, including custom domains hosted on WordPress.com for free. We run firewalls and have processes in place to alert us about unauthorized attempts to access WordPress.com accounts. We continuously watch web traffic and monitor suspicious activity. We also have security measures in place to help protect against DDoS or distributed denial of service attacks. We regularly check the security of our service and look out for any potential vulnerabilities. Our systems back up your WordPress.com site on a regular basis. Changes to both posts and pages are automatically saved in your site's revision history and can be restored with a single click. These backups are created automatically and saved redundantly in different physical locations. This means if an entire data center catches on fire, similar to what happened to another host data center in France back in March, instead of losing your site's data like many of their customers did, you can rest assured that your data is backed up, available, and online. We offer world-class 24/7 support, staffed by our happiness engineers, which are the foremost experts in all things websites and WordPress. Never worry about contacting support only to get an agent that has to get a manager or isn't even available. We offer live chat service that's available right in line with your site, so you can be guided step by step to achieve whatever you're looking to do. We're a global distributed company with over 1,500 employees in 82 countries across 6 continents. No matter where you're located, there's likely one of our team members nearby who understands your country's culture, values, and audience. You can change your site's language or even your site's administration language with a single click. We also provide support in many popular languages. It's important to understand that you can get started on WordPress.com completely free. But if you decide you'd like to check out some of our paid plans, which offer even more, including a custom domain free for the first year, we're offering everybody attending this session 15% off any WordPress.com paid plan with the code HOSTING15. This includes upgrades on any existing site or plan. We're also sending this code out in an email to everyone who registered, so don't worry about missing it. And if you ever decide that you want to try another managed host, dive into WordPress yourself, or try another software entirely, we've got you covered. At WordPress.com, you can download or export your data as much as you like, anytime you like. We have step-by-step guides for moving your site to or from self-hosted WordPress. And we've also partnered with several other world-class hosting companies that we think work best for a self-hosted WordPress environment. This concludes the informative section of the webinar. Thank you so much for joining me today. At this time, I'm going to pass it over to Sam and our moderator team, and I'd be happy to take any questions folks have through our moderators.
Okay, sorry, looks like I was muted. Anyway, let's go back to that. So we do have a few questions to answer. What I can do is, let me read the questions to you, and then you can figure out if I want to answer or do you want to. So, will my speed improve if I use WooCommerce and I have many plugins? I'm currently on Bluehost. My speed is 65, according to Google. Can you speak on how our infrastructure handles plugins and WooCommerce and how we do on that?
Yeah, you would have to look at your specific site configuration and infrastructure in general. A rating of 65, I don't know what scale that's on, but in general, our global CDN and the way that we handle caching at the network edge, we usually find, just much like we saw with that link that we're going to send out from the review signal hosting review, we find that we're much faster than most other hosting providers. I don't know which provider you're at currently, but I think that it's sort of a case-by-case basis. We can't just say, oh, for sure, it's going to be faster if you migrate everything over, or it's going to be this, or it's going to be that. But it's just, you know, websites are complicated, and it's a site-by-site basis sort of thing.
So just to add on to that, in terms of measuring whether or not WooCommerce and any other plugins would cause issues, we recently, there was a test performance bench done on WordPress.com, and we were rated as the fastest WordPress host out there. And so if you look at your, let's see here. Yeah, I'm not able to send messages to attendees. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a link to send if you look at the chat box at the bottom of the Zoom window, you will see a link there to the test that was recently performed by Review Signal. It does talk in more detail about some of the benchmarks that they did, and they go into a lot of detail. It's not a surface level test. Okay, so go ahead and read that, and it'll tell you about how we did with plugins and WooCommerce on our systems. Okay, so there's one more question. Maybe I can take this one. Does what you are discussing in this meeting apply to WordPress.org as well? So what we discussed in this meeting and the presentation that Rudy gave is mostly for sites that are hosted with WordPress.com and have plans with us. But there is a way for you to get some of the benefits of WordPress.com if you have a WordPress.org site at another host, if you were to take a Jetpack plan. If you were to purchase a Jetpack plan and install the Jetpack plugin, you would get some of the performance benefits and the backup benefits that we offer at WordPress.com as well. Alrighty, so let's see here. All right, let's see, we're trying to look for something specific to managed hosting. Okay. I see.
I actually saw one come in.
Yes,
if you
go ahead,
want, Sam.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, here, I'll just quick answer live. Sarah says, I'm currently using GoDaddy for my hosting, for my WordPress site. They have 24-hour support, Do you have a support line to help with issues? Do you undate templates and outdated files? Do you transfer the site from GoDaddy to you, or am I responsible for that? So there's a few questions in there, and I'll start with the, do you transfer the site from GoDaddy to you, or am I responsible for that? We can't necessarily go and help you go to your self-hosted site, but we have step-by-step guides on how to bring your site to WordPress.com. In terms of updating templates and outdated files, yes, we keep core WordPress and all of our theme repositories up to date, and we have dedicated security and themes team that are constantly going over those and making sure that they're up to date and they're not vulnerable to injection or other security vulnerabilities. We also have 24-hour support. We have live chat available 24/7 to most WordPress.com paid plans. We have email support available to everybody 24/7. And I think, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, on our WordPress.com business plan, we also have the option to have one-on-one with a happiness engineer to help guide you through your site.
Yeah, that option is with the e-commerce plans. You get one free concierge session. All plans actually have the option to purchase a one-on-one session with a happiness engineer. And I'm going to pop the URL for that as well. Just a moment. Let's get that here. And so the one-on-ones are called quick start support. So if you were to sign up for one of those, you would get 30 minutes of one-on-one help with happiness engineer for any questions that you have on your site. And the link for how to sign up for the quick start support is in the chat for you folks if you wanted to use that. Let's see, there is one question. Let's see here. So is there a meeting on the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org? Now, we did kind of discuss that in this meeting a little bit. The difference is basically WordPress.org. WordPress is an open source platform where you can pretty much install it anywhere in any host, okay? So what we have here at WordPress.com is a managed version of that. So it's an optimized version of WordPress, and our servers are configured specifically for WordPress. So that's the advantage. So with WordPress.org, what you would have is you would have the open source software. You would have to go get a host yourself, install it. You know, you'd have to take care of the security, the backups, the performance, all of that would be your responsibility. Whereas at WordPress.com, we take care of all of that for you. Also, one of the main differences, and I've been working with WordPress for over 10 years. One of the main differences between WordPress.com and WordPress.org is not only the managed server environment, but is the support you get for your site. So at most other hosts, what you would get is support for your site if it broke down. Like if it broke down, something would happen, then they might help you with that. But in most cases, I would say more than 95% of cases, hosts would not come in and help you with, let's say you wanted to make some kind of theme change, or you wanted to know how to do your menu, basically something to do specifically with your site's content. They won't provide support. At WordPress.com, that's different. WordPress.com support does provide support for your site as well. We are unable to provide support for plugins and themes that are not one of our own, of course. I just want to lay that out there because I don't want people to be disappointed, but that doesn't mean we won't put you in the right direction. So we'll guide you to your theme or the plugins documentation or anything of that sort. And we're more than happy to look at things, even if sometimes things are out of scope.
Cool. I have a few queued up, Sam.
Yeah.
I think, forgive me if I don't say the name correctly. It looks like Ibrahim says, I'm redesigning a medium-sized WordPress site for my client. How long do you think it should take? I have about a month and a half to get it done. This really depends on the requirements that your client has and what they need for their site. Obviously, it's going to take more time if they want specific integrations like an e-commerce system so that customers can purchase stuff from their site. What sort of things they have. If it's just a business site that's going to be a static page without too much interactivity, then I think a month and a half is plenty enough for a timeline. And this also depends if your question is specific to WordPress.com or self-hosted WordPress. Obviously, with WordPress.com, you're not going to have to set up all of the underlying infrastructure, whereas on a self-hosted WordPress site, that's also a consideration. So that's something there. I have another question from anonymous attendee says, sorry, I'd like to test if the template functions well with the built-in plugins installed. Much like I showed, if you go to, and I think one of the moderators can drop a link for you guys, but we have a support link with all of our site testing tools, different metrics, Google GT metrics like I used in the presentation, where you can go and test your site's performance yourself. So you can spin up today a WordPress.com free site for absolutely free, and then you can run it against all those performance metrics and see how they test. And you can do the same thing like I did with the WordPress.com business plan, which had custom plugins installed, and run the same performance metrics for yourself. Gary asks, can you host a custom theme? Yes, you can. On a WordPress.com business plan, you can upload any theme or plugin that you like. Okay, you got that one, Sam. Let's see. I think I had one more that I had queued up here. You know what, Sam? Go ahead, and I'll get these.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. So I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of Felicia, I guess. Okay. But does the number of installed plugins on a website affect speeds? If it does, what is the recommended number of plugins for fastest speeds? Okay. So there's no recommended number. I've seen sites with 50 to 100 plugins and they run fine. Okay. The key is to pick the right plugins. And the way to do that is when you're looking through the plugin repository and trying to install plugins, there are 3 things that I usually advise folks to check. So when you're installing it, number 1, does it have a lot of installs, right? So we're talking, I don't know, I don't want to give a hard number here. Sometimes you'll have plugins that are only 1,000 installs and they'll be great. But so try to check off some of these 3 things. So you need to have quite a few installs, okay? Number 2, make sure that the rating is good, right? If you see a rating of above 3.5, 4, whatever your cutoff is, comfortable cutoff is, but I'd say 4 and above are great plugins. And then the third thing is if you go to the WordPress.org plugin page for that specific page, you'll see a support tab. If you click on the support tab and you see that the developer and the community is engaged, you know that this is a good plugin. And generally speaking, if you stick to these 3 things and you install plugins that you need, there's no limit to how many plugins you can have. It's just more code on a site. You can have, try not to, what I'd recommend is try not to have duplicated plugins. So you don't want to install one plugin that kind of duplicates the function of another plugin, because then those might clash. So it really is up to the kind of plugins that you pick. And WordPress.com, our managed hosting can handle any plugins you throw at us. Just make sure you pick the right plugins. And of course, support can help you with that. If you need recommendations for plugins, just contact us and we'll give you some recommendations.
Nice. Thanks, Sam. Another anonymous attendee asks, what if I've already taken website hosting? Can I go for WordPress hosting plan 2? I want to know more. So it sounds like you have a WordPress site on with another hosting provider. And as I mentioned before, you can migrate your site to WordPress.com. Mods, I think there is a site like WordPress.com/import, and it can guide you step by step if you want to bring your site over to WordPress.com hosting. You can even start a free site on WordPress.com independent of your current site, see if it works out for you, and then migrate your site over into that site. So there are some options there. It would help, Mondo asks, it would help to have my site show videos on itself without redirecting to a site like YouTube or another video hosting provider. We have a software called VideoPress on WordPress.com, and you can host all your site's videos yourself and have your visitors play them directly on your site. And it's high quality. You host them yourself. It has similar features to the YouTube video player, also served over our content delivery network and dynamically resized, and the quality is all done in line like that as well. So that's an option there. You don't have to use YouTube or Vimeo to achieve something like that. Renia asks, I want to put web ads on my page so other people can shop on another website. How can I do that? There are a few options. One is to use our Word Ads software, which anybody can sign up for if they have significant traffic. And if you have a WordPress.com premium plan or higher, it comes right out of the gate. You can just activate it. So with Word ads, it's like a revenue share type thing. You get paid based on how many ad views that you get. And there are also other options in there for affiliate marketing. And we have all sorts of links for that they can guide you with. The mods can help you out.
Okay, that's great. There is one question that I do see repeatedly coming up in the Q&A, so I just want to address that. Folks are wondering if they want to learn more about the standard features of the website, and is there going to be any training on that? So we won't be doing that today, but if you look at the chat in the chat in Zoom, I just posted a link for our other webinars. So go ahead and click on those and register for. We've got one-on-one webinars for how to create your site and how to make money off your site, and how to start a blog, how to start a store. So go ahead and sign up for those. Those are free, and we answer a lot of those questions there. Okay. Yeah, and let's see here. There's one more question that was on repeat. Oh, and are we going to be sharing this recording? Definitely. It's going to be on our Automatic YouTube channel. So I'm going to, let me get the link to that as well. Just a moment. We'll be uploading it to that channel shortly after. Here we go. Okay, so that's also in the chat. So that's at youtube.com/automatic. Alrighty.
Cool. Chris has asked a few times, my main concern is always IP sharing for virtual hosts. If you're on the same IP as a known bad guy, you could be in trouble. We have a very, very complex and redundant infrastructure with dedicated systems and security teams. We monitor for these sorts of things 24/7. We have all kinds of hardware and software firewall rules. And we have specific dedicated bare metal hosts for these different applications. So it's not like it's a couple servers with a bunch of VMs, and then if they get access to that server, they're just gonna wreak havoc. We could actually, and it happens all the time, entire data centers go offline for maintenance, and things don't even hiccup because everything is automatically rerouted, redundant. We don't have very many outages, if ever. It's very rare. And the same thing with hacking considerations. Most hacks on WordPress.com aren't real hacks. They're the result of folks using what are called universal passwords and account information, and then that account information gets compromised elsewhere, and then they folks end up trying that information on WordPress.com and gaining access to the account. So,
right. That's great. I do have one question, two questions that I'd like to outline really quickly. So someone asked, what is the additional cost for Jetpack? Now, Jetpack is a fantastic product. The great thing about WordPress.com plans is that when you have a WordPress.com plan, Jetpack is included. So everything that you get with Jetpack included with WordPress.com plans. If you're looking for backups and things like that, those are included on the WordPress.com business plan and above. But yeah, you don't have to worry about getting Jetpack at WordPress.com. Those are included with all the plans that we have. Okay. There's one more question that I wanted to, oh, right. Okay, this is a more of a technical question, so I'll go into a bit of an explanation of what it is. So do you have any recommended plugins that can help with minification? Okay, so what this attendee is asking is, so minification basically means that you have a plugin or some kind of system that, so there's a lot of JavaScript code. There's a lot of code that is a lot of scripts that are loaded when your site loads up, right? So every site has CSS, HTML, all that stuff. So some of these plugins that speed up sites, what they do is they minify the JavaScript or they minify the CSS to remove spaces and things like that, just so that the size of the JavaScript file or the CSS file that runs your site becomes smaller, and so your site loads faster. Now, the great thing about things at WordPress.com is that you don't need a plugin for minification. We handle that by default as part of the Jetpack integration and our performance integrations.
I got a few great questions in. Sandra says, I keep hearing about how important SEO is. What plugins improve a site's SEO? SEO is search engine optimization, and that's how high your site ranks on Google and other search engines. And it's important to know that there's no magical plugin that will automatically improve your site's SEO. What some plugins do is they give you the option to modify more things with your site's structure and metadata. But in general, WordPress.com handles 80 to 90% of SEO for you right out of the box. We handle all of these things like creating an XML sitemap and sending it to Google and keeping everything fresh and up to date. What the most important thing actually when it comes to SEO is to constantly be creating fresh and new content that is in line with your site's specific topic or niche. And I know that's not the answer everybody wants to hear, but it's the truth. If you look at sites that are ranked higher, it ranked the highest, it's going to be well-established sites that have been around that are constantly putting out new content. So the further down the niche hole that you go, and the more specific that you get with your topic, and the more consistently that you put out information, the higher it's going to rank on search engines like Google and Bing. An anonymous attendee asked, any plans to migrate away from PHP codebase? The answer to that is no. WordPress is PHP software. We are integrating more with JavaScript on the front end in terms of Calypso and other things with the WordPress.com block editor, but the core of WordPress is PHP, and I don't foresee that going away anytime soon.
That's always an interesting thing, right, Rudy? Like you talk about, I mean, I've been, I know you have been a developer for a while, and I've been developing sites as well in terms of PHP and using other languages. That discussion's always interesting about using PHP or something else. My opinion as a developer for a long time has been, the language doesn't matter. It's the infrastructure that matters. And I think you're taking a great care of that. So we don't have to worry about that, about having PHP or something. Where we've optimized our servers to make PHP run better than any language to be.
I agree with that fully and completely. I can't pronounce this name. I'm just going to say Zhao. I'm sorry if that's wrong. Asks, sorry if my question is too basic. Question related to the site name. I paid for a domain, but once I click in the name of my domain, it turns into my domain.wordpress.com. I asked friends to try and they see the same thing. Is there any way to remove that? Absolutely, 100% yes. Go ahead and reach out to support. They'll show you how to fix that right up. It's a very simple thing to connect a custom domain to a WordPress.com subdomain, and then no one will see the subdomain, and everybody will just see your top level domain that you paid for. And then I'm going to answer one more. Trang says, if I'm experiencing issues with the site and it's no longer posted, is there contact information at WordPress to help diagnose the issue? It depends what you mean by WordPress, if you mean the WordPress software or WordPress.com. But you can definitely reach out at help@wordpress.com via email, and definitely please include your site's URL, and we can help you determine who your hosting provider is, if it is with us, and help you out with that, whatever your issue you're having or whatever, you will get an answer. So even if you're on self-hosted WordPress and you write help@wordpress.com with your site URL, or visit our forums at wordpress.com, at the wordpress.com forums, as long as you include your site URL, we can take a look and let you know, hey, if you're hosted with us, we're going to get you the help. We'll take a look and get you the help that we need. And if your site is not hosted with us, we'll let you know, and we'll even give you a link on who you need to contact to get support. So if you're hosted elsewhere and whatever, we're not going to leave you high and dry. Just make sure you include your site's URL.
Right. There's one question that's repeating, and again, I'd like to answer, is how to increase WordPress website security. So let me just go back a bit about what I said about plugins, about performance and minification and CDNs and all that kind of stuff. The great thing about WordPress.com is that you don't, for the main things that you need to do with your site, the biggest concerns people have is, hey, is my site going to be fast enough? Is it going to be secure enough? And is it going to be backed up? So you don't need to install plugins for these at WordPress.com. We've taken care of it for you. Okay, that's the whole point of having a managed host. And another thing I'd like to emphasize that we don't. Some of those plugins are not permitted at WordPress.com either. The reason being is that because we've optimized our servers so well for our systems for WordPress, you don't really need those plugins, and they would kind of conflict with our plugins. So yeah, so like I said, at WordPress.com, you don't need security plugins. But again, just to answer your question, if you do have a site at WordPress.org and you want to increase WordPress security, there's some great plugins out there. WordFence is one of them. You can look into other competitors for alternatives to WordFence, but WordFence is pretty good. But like I said, again, if you're installing the plugin at WordPress.org, you are going to be in charge of making sure you configure it so that your site is secure. Just installing the plugin is not good enough. So, just do yourself a favor, host with us, and we'll take care of all that for you.
Cool. I have a couple other questions here. Peter says, please explain partner with other companies to host. I thought you said you had your own servers, etc. We do. We can entirely own all of our infrastructure, every server, switch, cable down to the CPU and RAM. We're talking about partnering with other companies. We're saying if you want to use a self-hosted WordPress solution instead of using WordPress.com managed hosting, we have some self-hosting other hosts that we recommend. We're not. I think a lot of companies will come out and say, yeah, use us, we're better, we're the best, but we understand that folks want to use WordPress in other environments. And obviously we test and we check out and talk to other hosts, and we think Bluehost and Pressable are two places where self-hosted WordPress works best. So those are completely separate companies from us, completely different things. But this is specific to WordPress.com. So I hope that clears that up. We're not partnering with them to host any of our stuff for WordPress.com. Hope that's clear. Maria asks, does WordPress support web application? That's kind of a broad question. You could technically say WordPress is a web application. You can develop any plugin that you want to do anything essentially a website can do and place it into the website. So that's what most plugins do in essence, is they're almost their own containerized web applications in themselves that you can add to your site to integrate a calendar, to integrate e-commerce, to integrate appointments, shipping, whatever else. And you could kind of consider those web applications. Forms, it just depends what your definition of a web application is. And then last one I'm going to answer is Trang asks answer for now, I guess. I'm going to send it back to Sam. Trang asks, if I'm experiencing issues with my site and it's no longer posted, is there a contact information at WordPress to help diagnose the issue? As I mentioned previously, you can send an email to help@wordpress.com with your site URL, and we will see if your site is hosted at WordPress.com and get you the help you need. If not, we will help redirect you. But that is one of the biggest benefits to being hosted at WordPress.com is you don't have to be concerned about where you can get support when you have a problem. So there are a lot of questions in the Q&A about, I'm having this problem, I don't know where to get help. That's the beautiful thing about managed WordPress hosting is there's a question mark right there in your site's administration. Anytime you have a question, you just hit that thing and somebody's right there 24 hours a day to answer any question you have. So
that's right. Okay, I do have one more question. I could answer questions all day, but we do have to end this at some point. I currently have a business site on WordPress.com hosted by a bad host. And if I buy the necessary managed hosting plan, will you help me migrate hosting transition? So we won't dive into helping you actually physically migrate it for you, but we will guide you through the process. So that's the best part. If you buy a plan with us, a business plan, you get on live chat. We will give you the guides or the guidance on how to move your site over to WordPress.com. And in fact, we actually have a site migration tool integrated into the system. So if it works with your host, then it'll be great. But otherwise, we will point you in the right direction to get your site migrated over, for sure. Okay. Yeah, and I think let me see if there's anything important that we need to highlight that everybody needs to hear.
I actually have a good one, and maybe we
sure.
can sort of start to wrap it up on it.
Yeah.
Nick asks, I did a few web searches, and it seems like WordPress sites get hacked quite a bit. What do you do when hosted sites get hacked? So actually, WordPress.com being managed infrastructure pretty much never gets hacked. And the reason is because we have all of this infrastructure and monitoring in place. So if you have a WordPress.com site on almost any plan except for a business plan, like I said, the only time that hacks actually happen is when folks have universal passwords or share account information or have very simple user password combination user password combinations. How WordPress sites actually get hacked, and this can happen to you if you have like a self-hosted WordPress site or a WordPress.com business site, is they install plugins, which is essentially custom code that have vulnerabilities, and that's how hackers exploit. So when we talk about like WordPress, the core software being hacked, it's almost never unless the software is out of date. So if WordPress core is out of date, it's easy for it to get hacked, but we keep WordPress core up to date for you on WordPress.com completely. So that's usually the only way WordPress core gets hacked. And then sites truly being hacked, otherwise, it happens through vulnerable plugins. They use a plugin that has some sort of vulnerability, but all of the built-in plugins on WordPress.com and all of the stuff out of the box is constantly vetted, monitored, kept up to date. So it's not impossible, but it's extremely unlikely, and there hasn't been any true hacks like that or exploits that I'm aware of.
Okay. That's great. Thank you so much, Rudy, for doing this. I know I always gain when I talk to you, so I hope everybody else has gained as well. If we didn't get to your question, please go ahead and contact us at help@wordpress.com or wordpress.com/help, and we'd be more than happy to answer any other questions that you may have. Okay. Again, thank you, Rudy, for joining us. Thank you for all the moderators who helped out, and thank you for spending some time with us today. And we hope to see you on WordPress.com. Take care. Bye-bye.